So, the Raptors lost to the Cavs for the third straight year, and I don't want to say it was unexpected, but losing this badly was unexpected. Now, this Toronto Raptors team was objectively the greatest team they've had in their franchise history. They had their best record ever, their best net rating ever, and their team was just very good from top to bottom. From the eye test, they looked like a complete team. It didn't look like they had any weaknesses at any position because they could go like 10 or 11 players deep. The 2017-18 version of the Raptors played a lot differently than in the previous seasons. In the beginning of the year, Dwayne Casey was trying to implement a new offense, and every player on the team bought into it. They were no longer the ISO-heavy team they once were, and they also had the best bench in the entire NBA. These changes certainly made them better. Well, at least it did in the regular season. How's it going, ladies and gents? My name's Andy, and today I'm going to break down a couple of reasons why the Raptors have not been able to defeat the Cavs. First off, let's talk about their bench. Throughout a long, grinded-out regular season, the bench is very important. Nobody can play every minute of every NBA game, unless you're Wilt. But in today's era, there's so much more off-ball movement, so many more cutters, screeners, everyone's constantly moving around. So the starters need rest. The Raptors bench comes in and does work, and honestly, it's beautiful to watch. They played like one cohesive unit, their chemistry and energy are both great. But in the playoffs, the bench doesn't matter as much. I mean, if they have to, the Cavaliers starters can play over 40 minutes a night. If LeBron just decides to play 45 minutes every game, the Raptors aren't going to leave their bench players out there. They'd have to take them out quickly. This means their bench won't have the opportunity to abuse the Cavs bench, which is obviously not on par to theirs. In the regular season, the Raptors' 5-man bench lineup of Fred VanVleet, DeLon Wright, CJ Miles, Pascal Siakam, and Jakob Poeltl had an average net rating of plus 17.1. By far the best bench lineup in the entire league. In fact, that differential is better than the Raptors starters. In the playoffs against the Cavs though, that same lineup saw a significant drop because they're playing a lot against the Cavs starters, who would normally be resting on the bench, but they're not. Basically, the Raptors having the best bench in the league is not as much of an advantage as people think. In fact, it's sometimes a disadvantage because the Raptors coaching staff probably wants to stick with a similar rotation because their bench was a huge part of their success in the regular season, and that leads to them being out there for too long. Another good series to look at was the 2016 matchup between the Spurs and Thunder. The Spurs that year were insanely deep, they had one of the best benches in the league, and that's why they won 67 games. And then there was Oklahoma City, who kinda struggled in the regular season because they didn't really have much of a bench. But in the playoffs, the starters played a lot more, and they just stuck to a 6 or 7-man rotation. And because they had 2 of the top 3 players on the floor at all times, that's why they won. After going down 2-0, Dwayne Casey started to shorten his rotations a little bit and just gave more minutes to his better players, but at that point it was too late. Secondly, the Cavaliers always seem to dictate the pace. In the regular season, the Raptors were not the fastest team in the league, but they did have a pace of 97.4 possessions per game. But against the Cavs in these playoffs, that number dropped to around 90. Pace might not sound like a huge deal, but it actually is. When the pace is that much slower, it usually means there are a lot more isolations. The Cavs, of course, have the best player in the NBA, so they're obviously going to have the advantage if both teams start slowing it down and play a half-court game. The Raptors pretty much resorted back to their old playstyle, trying to ISO DeRozan or constantly run high pick and rolls with Lowry, but that has never worked before and it's not going to in the future. In fact, they're kinda getting baited by the Cavs to play a slow game and go ISO for ISO. This was very clear in Game 2, where LeBron was hitting some ridiculous fadeaways and the Raptors were demoralized. So at the other end, they stopped moving the ball, the players stopped cutting, and instead they tried to fight back with ISOs of their own, which of course didn't work so well. Another advantage of turning the game into an ISO-heavy game is that it allows LeBron to get more rest. On defense, he could just guard the guy standing in the corner to get a break, while everyone watches the Raptors ISO. And the third reason is that, well, I don't think this is a team that believes they could win. Just compare their body language and attitude to the Pacers in the first round. Even when LeBron was killing them, that Pacers team never gave up and always came back. I don't feel the same thing with the Raptors. I mean, just 1 year ago, after the Cavs won Game 1 in 2017, former Raptor PJ Tucker said, It's kinda weird that everybody today's like, oh yeah, we always lose the first game. It's like, no, it's not cool. It sounds like they're a team that already accepted that they'd lose the game. That doesn't sound promising. And then after last year's sweep, DeRozan said, if we had LeBron on our team too, we would have won. It's true, but this isn't something you want to hear from your leader. It just feels like they don't have any confidence. This year was pretty much the same story. Even the Pacers were able to push the series to 7 games and gave the Cavs all they could handle. It also doesn't help that the Cavs send a lot of double teams towards DeRozan, and he just hasn't figured out how to operate out of them. While Lowry has had a pretty good series for the most part, DeRozan has still struggled a lot. At the end of Game 3, DeRozan was sitting on the bench watching his team as they made a comeback in the fourth quarter. So it was just a disappointing end to the season, and the Raptors had higher expectations. Anyway, to summarize this video in one word, LeBron. The source of all of these reasons leads back to LeBron. He's the best player on the floor, and whenever any team has the clear-cut best player on the floor, they're gonna have a great chance of winning any game. Granted, I'll admit he hit a lot of crazy shots throughout the series that he normally doesn't hit, but man, he just always kills the Raptors. Can't really do anything about that. Oh well. Maybe once LeBron starts slowing down, the Raptors will have a chance to break out of the East. So I guess we'll wait like 10 more years. Alright fellas, I hope you enjoyed that video. What do you think Toronto should do next season? Should they consider trying to trade one of their big contracts like Lowry or Ibaka? Is it time to blow it up? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.